was never really ready. Hey, we're live. This episode of the Community Workbench podcast is proudly sponsored by yours truly, Matt Norn of Remax Bell Park Realty. For all of your real estate needs, residential and commercial, call me 860-428-6534. Your dreams are my job. Welcome to the Community Workbench. This is Matt Norn and Kyle Morrissey. We are your hosts of the #1 podcast in my basement. At the bench, we try to repair the sense of community. So every week we bring you small businesses, entrepreneurs, community leaders, charities, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And today we feel like talking to Susan Dunshee of the Worcester Blazers Volleyball League?
Club.
And did I pronounce your last name right?
You did.
All right.
That's a first. Good job.
So, Susan, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. You want to start out by kind of telling us what got you into the volleyball club industry or how it all came about?
Sure. So my daughter loves volleyball. She played in middle school and she played club in high school, and she is in high school still. And being a single mom, realized how expensive club volleyball really is, and a lot of sports. Like my son plays basketball too. So I had two sports, trying to figure out how to pay for all of it. So I decided let's just start a club where we can get together and play, and keep it low cost. So I started that in March of 2022, but lo and behold, trying to find a gym was super expensive. So I'm like, how am I going to keep the cost down with the gym being the costs of what they are? So I reached out to Open Sky Community Services. They're a nonprofit in Central Mass. They've been around for 50 years. They work with children, adolescents, adults, mental health issues, homelessness, substance abuse. But they have a huge building with a gym. So I reached out and said, I have this idea about, community-based, keeping the costs down, but also I wanted to include kids and youth and young adults who have disabilities or not. So right then they were like, yeah, we want to be part of it. So that's kind of how I got started and lucked out with a gym. So that started in the fall of 2022, 2023, going into it. And then now we're going into 2024. So,
Wow.
so it's pretty cool.
Wow. So when you say gyms are expensive, even like a school gym?
Yeah, schools seem to be even more expensive because they have to have staff in the building. They were upwards of over $500
Per event? Per practice?
Yes,
kind of?
so that's why couldn't afford it. So our gym is small, and the ceiling's a little bit lower than like a traditional like high school gym. But I just remind the kids, you work around it. You never know where you might be playing. If you're playing in a school, not all the schools are up to date with huge, large gyms. So we just make it work.
Wow.
And that's how I was able to keep the costs down.
Yeah. And if somebody wants to join this club, who would they call, or where?
They can call me or, reach out to our website. It's worcblazers.com. Or reach out to me, by giving me a call or sending me an email to find out. Because we run 10-week fall sessions. Ours is starting September 7th, our 10-week program. Then we do a fall and spring 10-week program. And then we do a summer program.
So now, like, and your age groups are like pretty big, right? Like you have...
Right. So we have different groups. So we have grades 2 through 4 together, and then 5 through 8, and then high school and young adults together.
All the way up to age 24, you said, right?
Usually 21, but we haven't been getting any young adults. And we just do that because sometimes some of the if anyone from Open Sky, if they're part of that, they can come and join us. So, and part of it too is maybe someone's not into sports, but, they want to be part of the team. If it's keeping score or coming in and doing a logo for us or anything like that. So we, everyone feels like they're part of something.
Right.
And my big goal is for the kids to root each other on when we're in practice. And some days I don't even have to say it, and they're doing it, and it just makes me smile.
That's awesome.
that they're doing that together.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So like, do you have multiple teams per each age group? Is that how that works?
Well, typically, we just run small, like scrimmages and drills with the kids. Typically, I don't have more than 30 at one session, and that's, using up the entire gym for that.
Oh.
Last year, we did have a traveling team. We had a girls' traveling team. And then last minute, I had to coach that, and that was not what I wanted to do. Like, I can, I know the basics, coaching the younger kids, and my background of being a special ed teacher. If that works perfectly. But when you get into competitive club tournaments, I mean, that was pretty rough and rough working with teenage girls, and my daughter was one of them. So.
Was that the first time you had to coach?
For a club, yes, yeah. So it was tough. So I'm debating if we're gonna do it again this year.
Yeah. Now you just said for club. Does that mean you've coached before for other?
Well, I just coach for my club, the Worcester Volleyball Club, and the only other time I've coached was talking with you guys too. I taught soccer for my kids when they were little.
Oh, okay.
In one of the town leagues, But
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, does the volleyball club play within the club itself? So you have a bunch of teams, or do they play other clubs around? the
No,
area?
so when we do our 10-week session, we're just playing amongst ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So, I'll just make up, it could be random that day,
Oh,
picking
okay.
up the teams, kind of keeping track to make them fair, who needs to work on what, if someone, needs to work on serving still, or if we don't have enough hitters, who am I going to put on each side, so they're kind of fair that they, are still playing and enjoying themselves. But I also run a mentor program with the high schoolers. So some of them will come down and come with the younger kids. So that's been a huge help. So,
Oh, yeah.
working with the kids. So,
Yeah, and they get to coach.
yeah, and get more play time in. Because I always
Yeah.
say the more play time wherever you are is better than nothing.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
so.
Yeah,
it's been
especially
working out.
not all. Like I'm at least in Rhode Island. 2 of my kids play, but the middle school age had far less teams for schools, right?
Right,
So
right.
as you get younger, there's less opportunities to play that.
Oh
right?
yeah, definitely. And like that happened with my daughter. She has played in Worcester in one of the public schools at South High, and we had moved out of Worcester, and we were in Auburn, and Auburn didn't have a volleyball team, and she was like devastated. So
Wow.
she's back at South, and she didn't play that year because she had missed the whole season, but she's back playing, and it just shows you not every school offers it. And
Right,
it's
right.
unfortunate, because some kids are better at what's certain sports. So.
Yeah, there was a handful of us that at Ellis that we didn't really play. I didn't play a spring sport, and we often thought about if we had done a volleyball team. Like NFA has a men's spring volleyball
Yeah.
team, and we were like, well, that would have been cool, but it never came about. But I love volleyball at all of our cookouts, and from when I was early 20s all the way up till even now. Like everybody expects there to be a volleyball
Yeah, I mean,
net
it's a
set
lot
up in
of
the
fun,
front
yeah.
yard.
You can play it outside in your yard, or
Yeah,
just bring a ball with you and hit around the park and all of that, or at the beach.
yeah. There's some nice volleyball, like beach volleyball nets at Owen Bell. We used to play there once in a while. It's a little noisy by the highway, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty cool to play on. Sand's wildly different than your
Oh, it is,
backdoor
it is.
grass, or definitely different than the gym. So, do you play outside at all? Do you take the club outside at all?
No, we don't. It'd be too hard. There's a few places in Worcester or surrounding towns, but I'll go with my kids. Like last night, we were out in Oxford, Mass.
Yeah.
They have a court that's sand, so we were out there, but it was raining and muddy. But we thought I went to practice serving because tryouts were today.
Oh,
so
yeah.
wow.
we were out
Okay.
there practicing.
So girls volleyball is a spring sport.
Well, in the high schools, it's a fall
fall.
sport, and then
Oh,
for the
that's what I meant, yeah.
boys, it's winter.
Yeah. See, when we
Oh.
were in high
Good.
school, girls volleyball was a spring sport.
Oh,
So
for
they
us, it
must
was
have-
always fall.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Rhode Island, so they must have switched it.
Rhode Island doesn't know what they're doing. So.
I'll give you that.
That little town over there.
Well, I grew up in a little town in Spencer and we didn't have volleyball. I cheerleaded and I played tennis.
I just always bust him because he's from Rhode Island. And
Oh,
I just say,
okay.
"Oh, that little town over there, squeaking like a state."
We chuckle.
So, so if somebody wanted to sign up for this club, what's like the process? Is there a certain time of year that they have to? Is there a registration?
Well, we had
time?
registration early. We had it last Tuesday night. So, but we still offer it the day of we start. So on September 7th, if you just come 15 minutes prior to the time that, your child starts, it's just
Yeah.
a few forms you have to fill out and
Yeah.
you're good to go.
Wow.
Sneakers and a water bottle and.
Oh, you get sneakers or
No,
or
they
bring
bring sneakers and a water bottle,
Yeah.
and we provide T-shirts after everyone's registered.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
a lot of
there's
fun.
and there's no fee. That's awesome.
No, there is a small fee, so it's $125
Okay.
for the 10-week session, and that includes the T-shirt.
Yeah.
But
So it's-
that's pretty, you don't find much like that, to be able to get a gym and play and all of that. So that was
Right.
one way to keep the costs down.
And did you say it was tryouts, but not you guys?
We only had tryouts for when I had the club team, girls club team
Oh, okay.
last winter. So that ran from like January till the middle of April.
So overall, the club pretty much includes everybody. You pay the fee, you're in, right? Is that how that?
Right. So, well, for the 10-week session. So we
Yeah.
have the fall, and then you'd re-register if you want to do the winter and spring for another 10. And then we have summer. So I think since we've started, we've gotten a lot of kids that come back and play, or they might skip because they're playing, in high school for the fall, and they'll come in the winter or come in for the summer. So we're roughly at about 189 kids
Wow.
over the past 3 years. So, it's pretty high for not having a huge gym, and we have to, have cutoffs.
Yeah.
I do have a few local businesses like Bank Hometown and Unibank has made donations so that I can give out scholarships.
Oh, nice.
For kids who, if they can't afford it. And then if anyone's part of Open Sky, they just reach out to Michelle Benjamin, who works for the community membership department, and then they can join.
Shout out to Open Sky.
Yeah,
That's a pretty cool place.
yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah, so it's
Where,
pretty
they're located in Central Mass.
Yeah, so their main office is in Worcester, and they
Okay.
have another branch out in Whitensville, right on one of the rivers, where they took an old mill and made it into something beautiful, where they have an art studio and a patio outside. So they do a lot with music and the arts out there.
Oh, okay.
They have a theater, so
Wow.
yeah, it's really nice.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's like the goal, or do you want to move into a bigger place, or? is
Well,
it
I
like-
do. I mean, one of my goals is to become a nonprofit so that I can offer it, all over and not just be in Worcester. And give the opportunity to kids to try something new. A lot of it's, I always say, try something new, make some new friends. You might meet someone that from a different town and become friends and hang out after, or just try something. Maybe you want to try out for school, but you didn't really practice. So come play with us.
Yeah.
And then I'll be able to, hopefully not have to have any costs for parents, and that's
Right.
the win-win, because if a couple of kids, you got to pick and choose who's going to play and so forth. So it's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah. The fees and the equipment for sports. I have 2 kids, and they don't play every season, and it still gets
Right.
expensive. My biggest thing is all the medical forms you got to fill out for it.
Yeah.
But we're not getting away from that.
Well, you kind of have to have them. Don't want to
Liability.
get sued.
Yeah, I know. It's just a sad part of the deal.
But I mean, my other goal would be to have a club team, girls and boys, and bring in a couple of coaches for that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a high school coach now. So those would be obviously paid positions. And then if any, parent wants to volunteer if they've played or wants to come in and help out, I'm always open to that.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of club teams in Massachusetts?
Actually, there's a few, but nothing like central for Worcester. So
Oh,
that's a
okay.
big thing. Or the club teams that are, 30 minutes away, maybe 20 minutes away are, very expensive, 2000 and up, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
when it's gets to be very expensive, like when my daughter played, it was over that, and then you had to pay your tickets to get into the competition, and you're paying for parking, and if you're traveling like to New York or somewhere, all of that,
Right.
so
Wow.
it's a lot. So my goal or my idea, if I have another club, competition team, would be, trying to keep it low cost and doing just like 2 tournaments so the kids get to
Yeah.
try it, but one of the more local. So if families, some families in the city, they rely on public transportation,
Right.
so
You can try and sell advertisements. So one of the first episodes we had was the last Green Valley Football Club,
Right.
and he didn't believe in pay to play because just like you don't believe in it, but you have to do it in
Right.
order to pay
Right.
for the gym, right?
Yeah, someone has to pay.
Yeah. So, but they'll have advertisements on their uniforms
Yep.
to compensate to try and offset
Yeah.
that. The difference, I guess, is you guys have to rent a gym. They have a field that they tried to find and stuff. So.
right.
Right. Yeah. But there's still some stuff that goes along with that as far as costs or
Yeah.
commitment. I mean, I want to say in high school they had the team raking the field because our soccer field, one of the wings was part of the infield of the
Oh, the
of the
baseball,
baseball field.
Yeah.
So like I remember raking that, I think, and I think they even seeded it for the soccer season, just right where our bound line was. I think most of the time we just got crabgrass for it, but and then of course when baseball season came around, they just tilled the whole thing, and raked
Right,
it all out
right.
again. So it was kind of an ongoing thing. Now they have a full. They did tons of renovations at Ellis Tech. It's not even the same school as what I was at, so
Wow.
it's totally different now. And they have a full football and soccer field inside the track. So when I was there, the track wasn't big enough for that, and they had to make expansions for that and put bleachers all around it. So now the baseball, softball field, and the soccer, football field are all like separate fields from each other. But yeah, I remember that, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it was more like, as a player, you're doing more for your sport. You know what I mean?
Right,
It kind of
right.
gives you that sense of like, yeah, we had to rake that out, and I don't know. It's kind of a cool story now.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Well, even like the component of having kids who have disabilities or no disabilities. I mean, it's nice to see that the kids are helping each other, because we've had a few. We don't track who comes in and what disability, but obviously you kind of know when they're coming in, or if there's limitations. If I ever had to use a beach ball instead of a volleyball, we would do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Okay.
cool.
But we've had a few kids on the spectrum. So a lot of it was one little boy who was sweet. He tried really hard and he was pretty good, but he liked to drop the F-bomb. So I'd have to pull him with me and say, no, no, no. And, all the girls would giggle. And then they would cheer him on even louder, but just things like that. But,
Yeah.
take it with a grain of salt, and it was fun, and he had a good time, and just seeing his mom at the door smiling, so
Yeah.
that meant
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, those
you
are
know?
core memories for them, and they probably never experienced something with that kind of outreach, right?
Right,
So that was like my main component of what I wanted to do, because when I was teaching special ed, sometimes I'd go out with the phys ed teacher and I'd watch them like do a different sport on the field, and it was just chaos, and I'm like, they've never been on a team,
Right.
or you'd be in the classroom and someone's dancing around, and why aren't you taking dances? Well, mom can't afford it. So it'd make
yeah.
you really feel sad, and
Yeah.
like you want them to feel part of something.
Yeah, right.
Everyone wants to be part of something
Yeah,
at any
course.
age,
Yeah.
but especially when they're young,
Right.
so that was like one of my main focuses, and I'm glad that I'm able to do that, and able to
Yeah.
do that with Open Sky. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great partnership for all. It just seems like there's more and more screen time for kids,
Right,
and
right.
and just kind of like, just I get it. Life is busy and it's tough to do all these activities and stuff like that, and it's expensive. So
Right,
it's,
right.
it's great when it can be simple.
Right,
and-
or yeah, and sometimes I'll have brothers and sisters coming in different age groups, so we'll do like a sibling discount or not even charge for one, because parents are sitting out, either in the parking lot or they run and do a couple errands and they come back, in a few hours. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll just keep the siblings for both programs, either one's helping out or one's just watching and learning a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it works.
As somebody who coaches, even when I don't know anything about the sport, I encourage that. Any parent out
Yeah.
there listening, just be in there and when the coach says, "Hey, I need you just to pass the ball from here,"
Right.
or you know what I mean, or help this. If you separate them up into drills and they're like, "Oh, can you just run this drill? Like, just toss the ball up so they can
Yeah,
spike it."
sometimes you just
Stuff like that. I just
Yeah.
totally encourage that, and that just makes it all that much more rewarding for your kid because it's like everybody's a part of it,
Right, right.
and that kind of thing too. So
Yeah, and something memorable to have with them.
Yeah, it
you
creates
know?
it creates core. I think that's like one of the biggest things about youth sports too is right like most of them aren't going to go on to play even in college, maybe not
No,
even high school.
right.
right,
But they have incredible core memories of it. And I have close friends from high school that we played Little League and stuff together, and I was with them this weekend. And that's all we talked about all the time was like some
Yeah.
of them that won the World Series together in Little League and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're core memories they've had for their whole life.
yeah,
And which is really important, especially for these kids that may not have these other options.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah, like today my daughter was at tryouts at her school, so they have, freshmen through seniors, for the JV and varsity team. And my daughter texts me coming home, "Oh, someone had our T-shirt on," so that just made me happy.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
cool.
describe her
Yeah.
because my daughter wasn't always at my practices, so I'm like, she's like, "Oh, she's a freshman," so I'm like, "That's great that she came in, obviously in the fall or winter, and was practicing with us."
Well, and you could have
You
been
know?
a gateway to volleyball for
Right,
her
right.
that now.
right,
Yeah, so, and that's a lot of it because I'll say to the kids, you could go on to another club, and if you can, great. If your parents can afford it, and you can always come back and play with us for practice time. It's always the play time that you get,
yeah.
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah, I'll say some of the travel teams that I've just seen are to hear some of their entry fees is like, oh my goodness, like in the thousands, like.
Or just
wow.
even tryout fees, like even for like volleyball, $100, and then your child doesn't make it, that's a lot
Oh,
of money
wow.
right there,
I didn't hear about the tryout fees.
Yeah, we have volleyball has them, so
Wow.
It's an youth sports, and the premier youth sports is an interesting concept because even when we were growing up, premier youth sports existed, but were not nearly as prevalent as they are today. One of
Right.
my daughters plays softball, and she decided they said there was no cost to this premier league because they needed kids to play. And then all of a sudden there was a cost to it. Well, I'm not going to play. Now they don't have enough kids, so we got a message. If cost didn't matter, do you want to play? And it's like, okay, here we go. So it definitely is a struggle because there aren't a lot of people that can afford, especially for multiple kids, right?
Right,
That are
yeah.
Right.
to send them along to these groups, which they're not all great, right? They could have coaches that don't know much, right? And they might not even develop as much
You
as
could
they
have
say.
me for a coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's they'll,
Like,
they'll
that's
reg-
not worth paying for.
no, they'll regress. So you should be paying them. But it's hard. So it's awesome to see you bring in people that can start there and then slowly
Right.
develop if they want to. You
Yeah.
know,
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate, youth sports is a moneymaker. Everyone's
yeah.
out there
Yeah.
to make a buck and get rich off of it, but we're not doing the service for our youth that we should be.
Yeah.
Like me, when I was growing up, granted I'm a lot older than probably both of you, like in the towns, a lot of the stuff was free, or literally you might have paid $5 and you got your whole uniform and everything.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Everything's
say
expensive.
in Plainfield it was like $25 when I played like basketball and you got a
Yeah.
shirt. I was like pretty much paid for the shirt. I don't. It's maybe the referees too. I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Referees got
Yeah, because I don't know where it pivoted though. Like when we played soccer growing up, we got socks, shorts, and a T-shirt, right?
You're from the big city of Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's right. But now it's like
Yeah.
triple the cost, and you're like, here's a T-shirt,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You know?
It is wild.
Or they
and-
ask parents to fundraise so
Y-
that you
yeah.
can get a T-shirt or all these things, and it's added on to the parents because they feel obligated. They have to buy something and bugging
Right.
everyone in the family, friends, coworkers,
Yeah.
to support your child to play.
Yeah, that's true.
some
Almost
one season.
every season you pay for your kid to get in, and then you fundraise and you buy something from the fundraiser
Right.
too. Like
Something you don't want.
The majority of this money comes from our pocket.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, actually, I remember coaching soccer with you. It was a raffle, so it was kind of cool that it was a raffle. Got to gamble a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's better than candy. Now, do you guys do any fundraisers or this?
No, I haven't
Nothing
done
yet?
any. So, like I said, I lucked out having Bank Hometown. They're one of
Yeah.
our local banks, or Unibank, making donations last year. So, I'll probably knock on their door again this year.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just used it towards saying scholarships to cover the cost.
But you think about the impact of that. How I don't know how much they donate, but however many that can play
Yeah.
for free that would have never had that opportunity, and what that opens up for them, right, is huge.
Right, right. And lots of times someone will come in and I'll just say, just let them.
Yeah.
Because
Nice.
I'm not going to sit and ask their finances
Right.
and all of that. I'm a single mom. I know it's not easy.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
more the merrier, I say. I mean, why not?
Yeah,
No.
sponsorship is big, and I just like almost every local business that we've had on the bench sponsors something like that or a charity
Right,
or
right.
something. It's wild how many people will pay forward, or how many businesses will pay forward for stuff like that. And it gives them some advertising, and then it also
Right.
benefits the community. So you can't really ask for more than that, really.
Yeah. And I have this local guy. I swear he must make his T-shirts in his basement, but he gives me a great price. So, I mean.
Hey, we produce this
You know.
podcast in a basement.
Right.
We know how to make stuff in the basement.
But he's probably a small business
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of keeps going around.
So, yeah, he's great.
So, do you want to give him a shout out, name of the business, or we're not?
Well,
sure?
he doesn't use a business. I go by Sam, and I email him, and he's perfect.
Well,
you know?
Sam, if you'd like to come on the podcast, I'm more than happy to have you.
Yeah, definitely let him know if he wants to go that route. We had a mom in baseball that was a lot like she had a printing machine or whatever. She did a lot of like the kids got a jersey, but she
Yeah.
put their names on the back of it
Oh,
too.
nice.
So
Oh,
it was
that's
kind of cool.
Yeah.
And she actually did parent T-shirts too. So like when you're sitting in the bleachers, all the parents
Yeah.
could have the same shirt on too. So that was kind of cool.
Nice.
And they had the kid's name on it, so that
Yeah.
You knew where your kid was.
Yeah.
I had a coach's one, so
You had to remind yourself.
coach. Oh, coach. Yeah.
So for the traveling team for our last practice, I just had the girls come in uniform, our jerseys, because they're not wearing T-shirts, and I just did a Hawaiian theme night. Had all the drinks, snacks, everything. So
Yeah.
that was just something to
cool.
be like a send off,
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
kind of have fun.
That was like a celebration to start the season.
The end the season.
Oh, the end of the season.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We did a pizza party. I remember that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did one. Yeah, I do a pizza party or ice cream depending on the season.
Yeah.
Whatever is available.
Yeah, so that's more money out of the coach's pocket.
Yeah, but you know what?
No, I
might
get it.
be- we're in the business of making core memories.
Well, I did the mocktails and,
Oh,
and all that. The
Now they'll know if
Yeah.
they'll like the cocktail later.
Exactly.
That's funny. Hawaiian theme. I didn't even think of theming the party for like every season.
That's I'm not a big themer. Sarah is, but I'm not
Yeah.
a big themer.
That's cool though. That,
Yeah.
again, another great memory when they can all hang out and reminisce and
Yeah.
whatnot, and more bonding time. That's one of the big things is like I've had friends where when you work with them or even subcontractors, and it's like you haven't been on a team, at least not for a long time. That communication, communication,
Yeah.
working with each other, the tolerances, that little bit more effort is there. I feel like when somebody knows what it's like to be on a team,
Right.
whether it was their childhood sports growing up or whatever it was. But I've met some adults that didn't do sports and didn't, for one reason or another, ever been on a team, and it kind of shows in their adult work life.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
It's pretty wild to see that kind of difference,
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of the youth sports trains them for life in a lot of different areas.
It does.
Biggest thing is communication, especially now, because if you're not on a sport, you can do almost anything on your phone where you never have to talk to somebody.
Right.
Whereas if you're on the field with somebody, you got to open your mouth, or if you want to win, you know what I mean? You got to
Right,
be
right.
talking to each other, and you got to be able to express, feelings, emotions, and whatever, and control those things too. So
Yeah.
it's like a big thing, kind of puts that little bit of pressure on you, which is the same in life. You get that pressure, when you're working and, performing for clients or bosses or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, because volleyball, I mean, you might not think there's a lot of running around, but there is,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the ball's not just going to come to you. And I remind the kids that, and I communicate. I'm like, you got to yell, you got it, I have it, help.
Yeah.
Talk to each other on the court so that you're not, running into each other, or, someone's going to miss the ball.
Right.
Yeah, and it's huge too for introverts too.
And I don't like seeing when someone's upset. And I even do that with my daughter when she's playing in school. I'm like, no one's going to look at you, especially for college. If you want to play in college, if you're mad on that court,
Right.
you
Yeah.
should come out, or anyone should come out. I don't think that's right. You want to have players that want to play, like you
And-
said, and communicate,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
it's a-
all have our bad day.
Oh yeah.
You can't take
Yep.
it out.
I got my couple of technical fouls and basketball. Only two. I think I only had two.
And you played what? 2 games?
No. Yeah.
But you're right, talking about managing emotions. I mean,
Right, man.
sports alone.
Especially when there's a ref around.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna ask you about your referee situation, but first thing you got to teach the kids is like, if you don't like a call, that's up to your coaches to negotiate
Right.
that with the ref. And if you want any kind of conversation about it, that's after the game. Even
Yeah.
with the coaches, you have to have that element of respect and discretion during the game, and it's tough. I remember feeling, and still feeling bad to this day, about yelling at my coach for something in front of everybody, and he didn't play me for the rest of the game, which
Right.
is rightfully so. But it was like, okay, control your emotions. Now's not the time to deal with that. He's doing his best. You have to do your best.
Right.
And then you can talk about it later. Like, they were super open with staying late and being like, yeah, this is why I made that call, and same with most refs there. We had referees on here, and it was like, yeah, maybe, they're humans. That's like the whole, everybody's
yeah.
human. So, you just have to understand to deal with that factor. And the more sports and the more things you have to go through and experience as a kid, the better you'll be as an adult,
Yeah, yeah. Like, so in our practices, I'll be the ref, I'm the coach, I'm standing there, so I'm making all the calls. But if I see you just standing around and chit-chatting when you should be watching the game, or know when the rotation, where you're going once you're going in, some days I'm like, well, just do laps. And that's a whole different thing. No one wants to do laps. And then I go back to when I was in high school. Oh, we ran laps all the time. I usually don't make them run laps, but just to kind of put that little
But as a
Yeah.
coach, to see your kids running laps is refreshing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough balance too because you don't want to lose them either. Like, oh, they're always on me,
Yeah.
that kind
Right,
of thing.
right.
So there's a certain balance to that. But yeah, I totally get it. Like if they're mouthing off or just not doing what's going. All
Yeah,
right,
I mean, some
let's
days,
wake up. Let's do some laps. Let's
yeah,
do a couple
because I'm
push-ups.
usually easygoing, but if they're just goofing around and you have like 8 of them not paying attention and everyone else is, it's like, well, it's not fair for the kids who are here and who are actually putting an effort into it and want to play,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So what is your referee with like game situations?
So
Is that
when we do our 10-week session, so there'll be scrimmages. So I'll just ref unless I have like one of the high schoolers in, one of the mentors in reffing because we're just doing scrimmages within our club.
Right,
We're not
right,
playing
okay.
any other teams. So, we'll still call it. Um, Depending on if they're not serving well, I'll always say, all right, you can move up off the line because the idea is to get it over and they
Right.
feel that they got it over and feel a little bit better about themselves than
Yeah.
Mhm.
than missing.
They
That'll
actually-
come. I always
Right.
say the more practice, it's gonna come.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
actually did that in last year in my daughter's middle school games. They let them move up to a specific spot to serve over. Because, I mean, that's the
gotta have
reality, right?
strength.
If you can get it over on the serve, then you can at least get a volley back and forth that both teams can benefit
Right.
from, right?
Right.
And not just like, oh, I can't serve, so you keep losing points.
Right, right. So lots of times too, we'll do drills the whole practice so that they're learning each position, and
Yeah.
that's my big thing. Like I always say, like you were talking about the back row, and we have the libero, but you have two defense players, and then say the libero's playing in the middle. They could be on either side, but that middle, they have to decide who's from the outside is going to go in the middle. I always use, oh, that's the campfire, and you're toasting marshmallows. Who's going first in for it, so that they know someone has to go, so that the 3 of them aren't just standing there, And I'm like, communicate who's going, and they tell me, and then I say, let's go, let's play.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even
You
at the
know.
high school level, you still see the ball hit the ground.
Yeah.
And everybody just looks around like, oh, we should
Yeah.
probably all go.
Well, why'd you miss it?
Right, exactly.
Well, no one went
Exactly.
for it.
I will say it's happened to me countless times. You call it and you still miss it. And I've played outside in some windy nights where it's like,
Yeah,
okay, I
sure.
got it. And then 5
Yeah,
feet
and that
over
happens
there.
with my
It's
kids,
like-
but then I always reinforce, you called it out. That's
Yeah.
important,
Right.
that
Right.
communication. I'd
Yeah.
rather you call it and go for it and miss
Yeah.
it than just let it drop.
right.
Right.
So that they know that's part of the game too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Done the colliding thing
Yeah.
too. Nobody calls
You
it.
know,
Both
or,
of them call
know,
it. Bam.
Or everyone's standing with their hands in the pocket. I'm like, are you ready to play or not?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you look
Yeah.
fashionable, but that's not how you start the game. So
Yeah. And after we recorded our commercial last week, I looked up the libero position.
Yeah.
I was watching videos on it, and they were talking about how this person can't spike the ball, and they're basically a defensive position
Yep,
and
back row.
sacrificing anything to keep the ball from hitting the ground.
Yeah.
And
They're also short.
they're shorter.
Well, even in the Olympics, you're like, yeah, because they can't spike the ball, so now you can be any size.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, my daughter
Well-
plays that. She's 5'2", so
Yeah,
she's a little bit
there you
taller
go.
than me.
Yeah. and it was just wild how like they're slamming on the ground, getting their hand just between the floor and the ball and stuff
Yep.
like that. It's pretty wild to see such a passion play, I guess, is kind of like you got to have
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
if
and
in
you're
that
going
spot.
going everywhere for that ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. Do you coach with the libero kind of thing, or is it?
I do a little bit. We go over the position, but lots of times it's just learning the rotation and learning the positions. With the high schoolers, that have played, it's easier to do that. But
Yeah.
with second graders, and they're just learning which direction they need to keep going
Right.
around. I think it's more important just to know that there's 6 players on the court and what position and who should go for it. And
How old is the libero position? Has that been around forever?
I don't know if it's been around
I
forever,
feel like
but
in high school there wasn't any odd jerseys or pennies or anything when like the soccer team.
Yeah, I
Sometimes,
know.
if we could, we'd go in
yeah.
and watch the volleyball. The girls' volleyball and support. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but I don't remember any odd color.
Yeah,
any
the different
odd
colors,
jersey.
sure.
I don't think they
Yeah.
all use it either. You don't
Oh,
have to use it.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, and like I recommend teams should only have one, like when we went to our competitions, every other team had one. We just had one because, they're only going in for a short time sometimes. And then if you have a couple of players waiting to go in and you're only putting the best person in, they're just sitting on the bench the whole time. So
Yeah.
why not teach them another position where they might get some play time?
Yeah. Wow.
You know?
Yeah, that's a funny thing. I almost think like striker in soccer. Like
yeah, but they're not
Yeah.
sub. They're just a position.
Yeah.
It's
just a position.
it is truly.
But like sometimes you don't use it. Like sometimes you have 4 or 5
Oh,
guys.
right,
Sometimes
yeah.
you don't have a striker.
Yeah.
Sometimes you let them go wherever too, depending on how fast a runner they are.
Yeah, but it's a unique position in the sense like they don't check in. They can
Oh.
sub on the fly, but that person that they sub for has to come
be-
back in for them.
Right. It has to be
Yeah.
the libero
Yeah, and
position.
it's only the back
Yeah.
row.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Right. So like if you sub for a person, the libero comes on and they're in the back row. When that person came back around, they have to wait until they come back. They can't go to the front row, and they have to sub for that same person they came out for or came in for.
Okay.
So it's like definitely strategic.
So if they're in the back row, can they save the ball up front? Is that
But
Like, do
typically
they- can
you're
they
not
only-
running to the front row because that's total chaos if you're not playing your positions. It's usually the back
Oh.
row. Yeah, because you have
Okay.
that middle, you have your setter, and you have your hitter.
Okay.
So
gotcha?
I mean, I think they can go
Couldn't-
anywhere.
yeah,
They just can't spike the ball over the net.
Right.
Right. So if the libero, even not spiking, but let's say they were setting for whatever reason and it went over the net, is that a penalty?
no, it'd go over the net. And there's another thing too, like you want 3 hits.
Right.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
know,
you're
that's
trying.
it. Yeah, I mean
even
that
in the
doesn't
video,
always
you
happen.
showed some of them like barely saving, it,
Right.
and it did go over.
Yeah.
and they kept playing.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
like-
Yeah, you can do that. But
Yeah.
like the big thing, and like I encourage our kids now to try getting the 3 hits on each side. That they learn that now because it's not. I always say it's not ping pong.
Right.
You're not just sending it back and forth over.
Right.
know,
But
and-
even in that regard, it's like if you're just lobbing it over to the other team, it's more likely they're going to be able to get it, do their 3 passes, and set their third one up
Right.
really well.
Set up.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like you want to have that, bump, set, spike, like
Yeah.
every time you can, to increase the odds of winning.
Yeah.
So
And we work on serving a lot.
Yeah.
Some weeks we're spending a good portion of the practice because, if you're not serving and getting it over, the other team's getting the point and then they
Right.
get the serve. So I'm like, that's an easy way to, fall and lose the game if you're doing that, every serve.
Yeah.
is it underhand or overhand, or they can do what they want?
They can do it either or. So I start obviously the younger kids with underhand and
correct,
like I'm not a strong server for overhand. So when I'm always doing it, still underhand. Some of the high schools, we go over overhand and I said, well, show me that you can do underhand, X amount of times, then we'll move you on. 'Cause you got to have that strength.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
You
right.
don't have it. It's like, why, a couple of the girls who are great at underhand, they were like, well, everyone else, there might be a year older, they're doing it. And I said, but why take the chance of not scoring? And I go, you can get it over and you have a perfect underhand and, and you might never get that strength. It's tough.
Yeah, I used to do the overhand serve a lot, and it was probably more powerful, but it just like it wasn't always accurate. It was,
Right. And you
I
got to
don't
have
know.
the strength to do it, though.
Right. Yeah. And now, I'm old. I do underhand all the time, but sometimes you can put some pretty good spins on an underhand
yeah,
too. You hit
yeah.
the top of the ball, and it gives it that overspin,
Yep.
so it kind of ducks down faster.
Yeah. If
After
you
it
have that
goes over the
strength,
net,
they'll go,
So you can still put some, strategy to it and
Yep.
stuff like that. And I learned a lot about spinning the ball with like playing pool and playing soccer. When you hit the balls on the side and they spin certain
Yep.
sides and take turns, and they turn in the air and
Yep.
stuff like that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and
pretty
then
cool to
when
watch.
I'm teaching serving, especially underhand, I'll have, I'll put a piece of tape or a sticker on the ball and have the kids look at that, have it holding in their hand the proper way and aim for that because lots of times they'll be just hitting straight under and it's popping right up. So
Oh
they
wow,
have to,
okay, yeah,
know that it has to be on an angle and when to let go and
yeah,
usually I'm using like the clock, saying have your arm at 2 o'clock behind you and swing down like you're holding an ice cream cone and, hit that ball on that sticker, So,
nice,
yeah.
nice. Um, One thing, I don't know if you've ever done it, but I had a basketball coach in high school that put us through a rotation during a scrimmage to all of us reffed, and for me, that gave me such a
Perspective.
perspective on like what the refs go through and
Yep.
how all of that, and it just helped the whole scope of our
Yeah.
game.
So with our high schoolers, they like to play. Well, it's queen of the court or king of the court. Like say you have three on and three on the other side, and you have to have the three hits. So you got to figure out who's gonna set, who's gonna hit, who's gonna get the ball. Like I'll toss it, and then when whoever gets out is out. So the idea is to stay in your three and knock everyone out and go through as many rotations. So the kids like to do that versus sometimes doing scrimmages. So like with that, then I let them call it out because, there's more area of the gym to be watching if I'm tossing the ball in. So I'll toss it in so they don't know who's getting it and where it's going. Make it a little more difficult, but they have to get the 3 hits. And if they don't get the 3 hits, they're out.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
okay.
So yeah, so
And
that
then if
gets,
they score, is the other team out too?
yep, the other
Yeah.
team is out if they score. So,
Yeah, it's kind of
so it
like a hot
kinda-
hands type
Yeah,
of.
so they work on that 3 hits.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
and they seem to like it, and it goes by a little quicker,
Yeah, I will say we used to have big parties every Tuesday night when I was in my early 20s, and we would play volleyball. And sometimes it was better when only 6 people were there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you were up for it, we drank a lot too, and it worked. But like to me, like you're always in the action. Whereas if it was 6-handed, or even if we had too many, where it was like 8 on one side,
Yeah.
like you're not moving much because you got to share the
Yeah,
field with your
there's too many
players.
players.
Yeah. So, and then there was times where we would have rotating teams, and so it made the teams a little smaller.
Yep.
But yeah, it was funny. And then usually the next day you'd feel it if it was only like 3-on-3. It's
Yep.
like
Yep.
up till midnight playing under the lights in the backyard, hitting the grass hard. Yeah, I remember. It's good times. So, yeah, the sports is such a big deal. A lot of people don't really get that, like how much your kid can get out of it. Whether
Oh
they're-
yeah. And lots of times now, parents are ruining it for their kids.
Yeah.
They don't want to play. Either their parents pushing them or just going to a game and hearing other parents scream. That's not fun for them.
Yeah, I also think travel sports has ruined a lot too because there's been like such a demand on the child,
Yeah.
right? And there's a lot of parents that want them to play at the highest level but the commitment is like insane,
Yeah. Yep.
and just too much commitment for that age. I mean, there was my dad is really good friends with a guy that coached Brown University women's soccer for 35 years, and he recruited a goalie that had played like premier everything,
Yep.
and she quit freshman year before it started
Oh, really?
because she got burnt out.
Wow.
So it's like, you push, and
Yeah.
for what, right?
Right,
That the
right.
goal is like that they learn these skills of being on a
Yeah.
team, that they have the core memories, that it helps develop them as a person. But I think that gets lost in a lot when you talk about
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these premieres.
Yeah.
Or you worry about injuries. My son is really good at basketball, and we did the church groups, and he played his freshman team, and then last year, and when the church groups, he moved the wrong way and inflamed his sciatic nerve. He's been going to physical therapy for a year now. He missed out a whole season of playing, so he's been pretty bummed out, you know. Like he's just starting to play because they're like, play until it bothers you. And then it bothers him, and then, you know, he's in pain and a grouch for another
That's
week.
really
Yeah,
tough.
so I feel really bad because he just turned 16. He's too young to have that injury. You know, we went through the MRIs and all of that, and it's just the sciatic nerve got inflamed whatever way he moved on the court.
And is that like a lifelong thing now?
I hope not.
You said
I hope not.
to let a kid play until it bothers them. I
Now,
feel like
well,
every kid would push that way
right.
too
Well,
far.
well, he hadn't been playing at all.
Oh,
So, you know, and going to physical therapy, and, you know, things would bother him, like sitting at school. So he'd have to get notes just so he could walk around the classroom and things like that. So now they want him to play until he feels like, oh, maybe I had too much. Think of, like, you know, if you pull a muscle or something, like, oh, it's time to go sit down. So he's doing a little bit more of that. So I'm hoping if he's feeling better that he'll be able to play, you know, again, because he misses it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
tough. And some parents don't care, you know. They'll push their kid or get out on that field, you know. And why?
Yeah.
Parents ruin everything.
Yeah. Don't they?
It is a tough balance sometimes, or it's just tough because you never, like, injuries are just, most of them are just unpredictable, you know, or you know, you can't always prevent everything as much safety, as many safety meetings and equipment that you have. It just still, they can happen, but yeah, how you deal with it afterwards is a big deal as well. So, what do you do for a living?
So I do a little bit of everything.
Segues aren't my thing. I remember you wanted to talk about it.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
just remembered.
So, well,
Hit
my
me.
background, again, is special ed. And then I ran a successful art studio in Worcester called Just Paint Studio for about 12 years leading into COVID. And that blew everything up. And I closed the brick and mortar. But I'm still big in the arts. But I got into, like, the volunteer sector of businesses and bringing volunteers in for companies. So I work for a great organization, Ascend Hospice. So they're in a few states, but we're all over Massachusetts. We go down to the Bourne Bridge out west of Western Mass. So I recruit volunteers. So a lot of people don't know, if you're in hospice care or hospice care, to have an organization, we have to have 5% hours of volunteering for the nurses. So we need to get volunteers in. And I work with a great executive director. You know, we have nurses, CNAs, social workers, caseworkers, chaplains that go in to hospice patients. So it could be, you know, in assisted living, or they're living at home or in a nursing home. So I look for volunteers that want to, you know, come in, and maybe it's just companionship, sitting next to someone. I have a woman that loves to do art, so I picked up art supplies, and she's doing art with a few of her patients that she sees.
Oh, cool.
Music therapy, you know, I'm always looking for anyone that plays any instruments that would want to go out and, you know, play some music for someone. Or we do have pet therapy, but I do have to say we have to have the pet certified.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we can't just have anyone bring a dog in, unfortunately, even if the dog's perfect. Alternative therapy, like massage therapy, we do for volunteers. So teen. So I'm building up our teen program where I'm working with North High. That's one of the high schools in Worcester where they have a CNA program. So when they do their internship, they'll come into the office and learn about how the office of a hospice runs and clerical work. And if they're 18 and older, they can go and see our patients. You have to be 18. And I think that's just part of our organization policy, that you have to be 18.
And you don't have to have any specifications, right? Like any
No. So we
qualifications,
do,
whatever.
you know, we do obviously the Corey check and the background check, and you just have a medical clearance from your your doctor, and we have you get a TB test because lots of those, in some of the nursing homes can be carried around.
Oh, wow.
But before I started there, I didn't realize like if your doctor says, "Oh, you can be on hospice care," and saying you're living in a nursing home, that you can have hospice nurses coming in to help you. So, to me, that's like a win-win for the nurses at the nursing home because they're overloaded with all their patients they have to see, and then in the CNAs and everyone that's in the nursing home, it could be a physical therapy. And our nurses will go in to that facility, whatever, how many hours are allotted for that one patient a week. So,
okay.
yeah, and so a lot of people don't know that you can get that on top of it. So, like, as someone older, if they're on Medicaid, Medicare, that's all coverage, and most insurances cover hospice care.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's hospice is end of life care.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you can think as it being sad, but also you're bringing some comfort to, someone in their final days. Because sometimes some of them don't have family or family can't be there. So if someone's just sitting with them, even if they're not talking anymore, just having someone sit with them is very, very important. So.
Yeah, the loneliness
Yeah.
makes anything worse. Well, I don't know. For me, it makes anything worse. Maybe Kyle not. Kyle likes the loneliness.
Several hours a day.
But it's another way to give back.
Yeah, for sure. And if they wanted to volunteer, who would they reach out to?
They can reach out to me, Susan Dunshee at Extend Hospice in Worcester, and we can get you started.
Is there a phone number for that you know?
I don't have it right on me right
Okay.
now.
No worries.
If you just Google Ascend Hospice, it'll come up.
Okay.
Ascend. Okay.
Yeah, Ascend Hospice.
Where is that exactly?
So we're at 352. The office is 352 Belmont Street. So we're right across from the new VA offices that they built, the UMass, the university campus. We can see Lake Quincy from our office.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're right there.
Nice.
So our main office is there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what we say when we say volunteer.
Yeah.
Volunteer local.
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly.
There's always opportunities. There's always a need for volunteers. So
There
you
sure
go.
is.
And that's your full-time thing is you recruit volunteers.
Yeah, I recruit
and you coordinate
volunteers.
their schedules, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's really awesome. That must be pretty rewarding work, I would think.
Yeah, it is. One of our volunteers, she would email me after every time she saw the patient. So I got to get to know the patient that I had never gone down to meet.
Nice.
And then unfortunately the patient did pass, but talking with the volunteer for a little bit after, to both of us to reflect, and that, she did bring some comfort to that patient. They had some great conversations, about their life. I actually just met a woman who's 99.
Wow.
And she had a picture of her parents, and the dad was in the Navy. So that had to have been 1920 maybe?
Wow.
It's
Yeah,
just
for
amazing
sure.
to see that, and talk with her. So, and he has some stories. So
Yeah.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's really something.
I definitely miss talking to my grandparents about the way they grew up or what they did when they were my age, that kind of thing.
Right.
Stuff like
And,
that.
hospice, we always think of senior citizens, our elderly. I mean, sometimes we do have someone that's younger.
Oh,
When I was growing up, I must have been about 19, and I don't think hospice was a big thing back then. I had a friend who passed away from leukemia, and the only thing we'd always joke with her saying she looked cool because she had different wigs on all the time, and things like that. So, things have evolved about healthcare and taking care of someone at the end of life stage too.
Yeah,
Not just putting them in somewhere and shutting the door. They can
Right.
still have a life
Right.
and
Yeah.
talk and all of that. So
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. A recipient of hospice could be a young person. That's,
yeah,
And some people
that's
are
a
in
little,
hospice for a long time. Like,
yeah.
it's just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, my wife had people that were on hospice for 20 years. It's just like miscalculate, whatever. They're like, yeah, and then things never progress, but then they come off hospice and they go back on, and they come, and it
Yeah,
just,
so we have to
Yeah.
recert our patients, you
Yeah.
know. We go over them like every 2 weeks. And like you said, some of them stay on or we discharge them and they come back, you know, depending on
Wow.
how sick they are. And it's great in a way to see when they do get discharged
Yeah.
that they're doing better, you
Right.
know, for
Right.
whatever reason. But
Yeah.
pretty
Maybe it's
amazing.
hospice.
I mean, Matt would love that kind of care. Of talking to somebody every day, all day.
Oh, whatever.
playing the violin in the background or something.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, that would be you to treat me like I'm dying.
Not like you're dying, just the one-on-one attention with the amount of. Some people are just like the volunteers are there for just companionship,
Yeah.
like just to have conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
They're
yeah.
nothing more than just talking to them.
Yeah.
And it could be an hour a week, 3 hours a month. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
or take out of time of your busy, you know, home life.
Hmm.
Right,
Um,
right.
But it's just something about giving back, you know, and
Oh, yeah.
feeling good about yourself
Yeah.
and all of that. When I was in college, I worked for a hospice agency, and I was a CNA, you know, while I was in college.
Oh, wow.
And I still remember one of the patients. I would work every Thursday night and every other weekend, 3 to 11. And this woman came in, and I knew I wasn't working that weekend. She was there that Thursday, and I wasn't going to be back till the following weekend. So I knew she wasn't going to be back. And we used to have volunteers that would come in and bake and bring stuff in for families that were coming in or the patients. And I said, would you like a piece of lemon meringue pie? She had one little bite, and I'll never forget her just thanking me so much that, you know, we had that moment of her just having a bite of pie with me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because I knew I wasn't going to see her again, you
Wow.
know, and she was so grateful that I sat with her for a while, you know, and sometimes that's all they want, you know,
Yeah.
or need.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
you don't-
Just like we all need that.
And you don't know what happened before they came
Right,
to you, right?
right.
And they could have been very lonely and living alone, and so a little bit of a companionship goes a long
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yes.
I hope the viewers enjoyed it as much as I did, because this has been so cool to talk about something other than computers and screens
Yeah.
and what just went viral. Unless we go viral, because that would be cool.
Yes, we want them to look at computers and screens.
I know, it's a double-edged sword, all right? I'm getting cut on both sides. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. The Community Workbench family is promoting the Be the One campaign. It was started by the American Legion in efforts to stop veteran suicide. For more details, visit thebetheone.org. Join us Monday night, August 26th, when we interview the Quiet Corner Vet Coalition Wreaths Across America. They're getting started with all of that. December 14th is their big day to decorate headstones and whatnot. So definitely tune in, show you how you can help out with that charity for sure. See you Monday night at 6. As always, buy local, hire local, dine local, volunteer local, and donate local. Have great days, everybody.